Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am V.N. Prabhakar, visiting faculty at the Archaeological Sciences Center, IIT Gandhinagar. In the present paper, Outlines of Indian History, you will be learning about the module Prehistoric Cultures of India. At the end of this module, you will be able to understand broad outlines about the prehistoric cultures of India, its periodization, and to also understand various subdivisions in these prehistoric cultures of India, their economy, how the human progressed from the hunter-gatherer stage to the sedentary lifestyle system. And we will also ending this module in the megalithic cultures of India, which is the Iron Age culture of India also, before which they emerged into the urbanization and evolving into various cities, state cultures and other kingships. Before proceeding further, I would introduce what is history and what is prehistory. What is the broad divisions between history and prehistory. Historic period, it is concerned with the availability of written records in which we can read past written records like inscriptions, coins and other sources, manuscripts, then reconstruct the past human history. In India, the written history starts around 600 BCE or from the 6th century BCE, but in the world context, the written records start as early as 3100 BCE, nearly 5000 years ago in the Egyptian and the Mesopotamian civilizations. But prehistory, it covers the entire human history before the advent of writing system. So it covers nearly 99.9% of the human existence on this planet, and the entire human history is reconstructed with the availability of material culture, whatever have been left behind by the past culture, and that is the scope of the prehistory. It starts roughly around 2.5 million years ago, and even further if we look into the evidences from Africa, the prehistoric period starts around maybe 3 to 4 million years ago, when the early humans or ape humans, they were using stone tools from the availability of local raw materials. I would also like to introduce the concept of BC, AD, BCE, CE. Previously we were using BC and AD, that is before Christ, and Anno Domini, that is from the year of the Lord Christ. Now the international communities and international research scholars, they tend to use the terminologies BCE and CE. BCE means before current era or before common era, and CE means current era or common era. And also we use the terminology BP. BP means before present, and the base year to calculate BP is from 1950. So based on these terminologies, we tend to assign dates. Like if I talk about Harappan civilization from 2600 BCE to 1900 BCE, it means 2600 years before common era, that is around 4600 years ago. Coming to the prehistoric cultures, I mean, there are several subdivisions in the prehistoric cultures depending upon the lifestyle, depending upon the economy, depending upon the various kind of tools used by the prehistoric human. They are classified into Palaeolithic period, Mesolithic or Microlithic, and Neolithic period. So it all represents technological advancement. It all represents the economy of the past humans. Again, the Palaeolithic period, it is subdivided into lower, middle and upper Paleolithic period, depending upon the kind of tools the past humans have been using. After the Neolithic period, the humans started to settle down. They were largely roaming from place to place, gathering food and also hunting to a certain extent. After the Neolithic period, they started to settle down, and that marks the emergence of the metals, and we enter into the age of Chalcolithic, that is copper age, and then iron age, and all those cultures emerge after the settling down of the humans. The main characteristics of the Paleolithic period, what kind of system in which the past humans were living in? They were largely stone tool using communities. They were only using stone tools, and in many places they were also using bone tools and wooden tools also. But in the archaeological record, we don't find bone tools and wooden tools because of the preservation condition, poor preservation conditions. So stone tools are occurring in a very large number, but in suitable conditions like in Europe, we find bone tools and wooden tools from the archaeological context. And these communities, they were largely mobile hunter-gatherers. They were not restricted to one locality. They were constantly on the move, looking for game and food, and wherever the food is available, they fashion the stone tools. Either they hunt or they scavenge or look into the kind of food materials, they process them with the availability of the stone tool. So as on availability, they have to fashion the tools, they use it and discard it. This is the kind of mechanisms. And during the night times, they were spending the times either in open air sites or in cave settlements. Of course, there are some exceptions in this regard, like the Bhimbetka caves. Bhimbetka caves in Madhya Pradesh, we have a continuous occupation from the lower Paleolithic period onwards. The past humans, they were living there since the lower Paleolithic period onwards to middle Paleolithic, upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic. So there's a constant occupation at Bhimbetka. There are several other cave settlements in India also, like Gudiyam caves in one such locality in South India. So these are all other examples. So they were living largely in open air sites as well as cave sites, wherever the caves or naturally formed caves are available. They were using bone tools, as I told you earlier, and also antlers from the horn of the gazelles. They were fashioning out, they are also sharp in shape, so they were also fashioning out the horns, and they were using it as tools. The Paleolithic period, if you look into the chronology, South Asian context, the earliest date is from 2 million years ago, more than 2 million years ago, from a site known as Rivat in the Son Valley of Pakistan. So it has been dated based on the thermoluminescence method, and there are other sites in South Asia like Athrambakam, which has been recently dated by thermonuclide dating method. So it has been dated to 1.5 million years ago. And also there are some other sites in the Jwalapuram area and in the Maharashtra, Mori, Bhori and Morgaon area, where the volcanic ash of the Toba, origin of Toba from Indonesia, it has been dated to certain chronological horizon. Similarly, in the Ansgi and the Baichbal valleys in northern Karnataka, working floors of the prehistoric communities have been unearthed, and it has also been dated using various dating methods. So we have a broad chronology starting from around 2 million years ago to up to 150 or 200,000 years ago, followed by middle Paleolithic period, which stretches up to even 50,000, 60,000 years ago, and upper Paleolithic period, it comes around up to 10,000 years ago. So this is the kind of broad chronology we arrive at, and if we look into the overall distribution of the prehistoric sites in India, everywhere we find prehistoric sites in Pakistan, northern Pakistan, in southern Pakistan, in every river valley, and Narmada Valley is one of the richest sites in India. Along with the animal fossils, we find also one specimen of a human fossil. We will come to that later, but if we look into the distribution map, there are many pockets in which the human communities were living during the prehistoric period, and the main tool typology is chopping tools, and also cleavers and hand axes, borers. So different kind of tools, depending upon the purpose in which they require these tools, they were fashioning it and they were using it. During the lower Paleolithic period, the tool sizes, they are larger when compared to the subsequent periods. Initially, they were fashioned out from the river pebbles available from the river beds, and they were fashioned as and when required. Coming to the subsequent period, during the middle Paleolithic period, they evolved a different kind of technology. Now they are not removing large flakes from the stone pebbles, and they are kind of preparing the core, thinking of the final shape of the stone tool. So accordingly, they were fashioning the tools, and the technique is known as Levallois technique, based from a site known as Levallois in France. So all this kind of smaller tools come into existence during the middle Paleolithic period. Various kind of tool assemblage is found, like scrapers, borers, and smaller size of the hand axes, smaller size of the cleavers, and various kind of tools comes into existence. As I told you earlier, Narmada Valley is one of the richest faunal assemblage and also fossil assemblage from the prehistoric period. Large number of mammals fossils have been found from this site, and the most interesting find in terms of human origin is that of an archaic Homo sapien find from this site known as Hathnora by Arun Sonakia, Geological Survey of India scientist, who discovered this fossil in 1980s, early 1980s. This is one of the kind of linkages in the evolution of the human kind in India, and this is the only discovery of its kind in India. And there is this find also indicates that there is a possibility of similar other finds from this river valley. The type of stone tools we find in the prehistoric tools, these are examples of choppers and bigger bifacials. In the stone tools you can see a bigger portion of the cortex is left behind, and only one edge is worked upon to create a working edge, and used for various cutting tools or scraping tools. Similarly, all around the pebble, the flakes were removed and hand axes were created. Various shapes of hand axes were created. So these are all examples of hand axes. The large flakes were removed initially, and traditionally it is identified with the Abbevillean technique after the Saint Abbeville site from France. So at this site first this kind of stone tool making technique was observed. Later from another site known as Saint Achille, one could observe that the smaller flakes were being removed in a more systematic manner, so that the thinner tools can be produced with a very light in weight, so that it can be also carried for a certain longer period. So these kind of evolutions, slow evolutions were happening. Initially larger flakes were being removed, then gradually smaller flakes were being removed, so that the tools can be produced in a more geometrical manner. This indicates how the flakes were being removed from the river pebbles. Initially a pebble is picked up, and with a striking of a hammer stone, larger flakes were removed. It is known as the direct percussion technique, in which the force is applied directly so that the larger flakes are removed. How do we know whether the larger flakes are removed or smaller flakes are removed? If we look into the stone tool, we observe the flake scar. Whenever a flake is removed, that is a small chip is removed from the pebble, we observe a negative marking over the tool. So from this negative marking we can understand whether a smaller or a bigger flake was removed. During the Middle Paleolithic period, they were using a different technique known as levoloi technique, or the prepared core technique. Under this technique, flakes were removed all over in a small pebble or a large cortex. Then they were chipping out from one edge, so that a smaller tool is removed, and very effectively with a predetermined form and shape. This is also known as the prepared core technique. So gradually we see an evolution. After the Middle Paleolithic period, we enter into the Upper Paleolithic period, in which it is known as the age of the blades and burins. So we have very few Upper Paleolithic assemblage in India. The most famous are from the Muchatla Chintamani Gavu in Kurnool area, where a very good bone tool assemblage were also identified, and they were excavated also. From the cave settlements in Andhra area, from Kurnool area, the Upper Paleolithic implements were also discovered. Otherwise, it is very difficult to find this kind of tools of the blade burin typology, and very much atypical of the European prehistoric cultures. In European Upper Paleolithic culture, we have a definite subdivisions. We have at least 5 subdivisions of European Upper Paleolithic period. We have different kind of stone tools as well as bone and antler tools, and during which the rock art also emerges in the Upper Paleolithic period of Europe. Coming to the next cultural period in the prehistoric culture is Mesolithic or the Microlithic. Gradually, as I told you earlier, the size of the stone tools becomes smaller and smaller. Now the tools are becoming so small, and it can even fit on the thumb nail of a human hand. So that is the kind of smallest tool they were producing, and they were also shifting the raw material, because to produce such a small tool they need semi-precious stones, which are silicates basically, and they can be chipped up to a very smallest size. That's why they are also known as microliths. In some places the microlithic tools, it appears even during the Upper Paleolithic period. So microlithic assemblage can be slightly earlier than the Mesolithic. Mesolithic is a technological advancement, but microlithic only indicates the size of the stone tools. During this period, the humans started gradually to settle down. They were also settling down in certain areas. They were nomads in certain areas. So it is a mixed kind of economy there. They were sedentary or semi-sedentary in nature. They were also hunting and gathering. They were not kind of producing any kind of crops, or they are not domesticating. So still they are in the very roaming stage, or hunter-gatherer stage. They are also living along the alluvial plains. Now their settlement pattern shifts from the open air sites of the lower Paleolithic period or the cave settlements. They are gradually shifting to the alluvial plains or the coastal regions. So this also led to the overall later period developments of domestication. So they were using stone tools, bone tools, and also antler tools. We find evidence of them, and at some places we have evidence of pottery, like in Langnaj site in Gujarat. We have evidence of some cord impressed pottery coming from the Mesolithic period. And the stone tool typology, it can be broadly classified into geometric microliths and non-geometric microliths. And stratigraphically, the non-geometric microliths come earlier, slightly earlier than the geometric microliths. Geometric microliths, they can be triangles, they can be lunates, they can be trapezes. So all these kind of shapes were produced, and they were hafted in wooden tools. The kind of application is that they were hafting. They are not using each tool individually, but they are hafting on wooden tools. And the chronology of this period, it ranges from around 10,000 BCE to 7,000 BCE, and again different regions have different chronology. It is not that the entire Indian subcontinent went through a Mesolithic age from 10,000 to 7,000 BCE, and different regions, they had different chronology. Coming into the chronology, the Mesolithic can be dated from 10,000 to 8,000, even up to 2,000 BCE. In several places it went even up to 2,000 BCE, and in Gujarat they were coexisting along with the Harappans. But if we look into the microlithic assemblage, it can go very early. It can even go up to 30,000, 35,000 years ago. And from some of the cave sites in Jwalapuram area, based on the thermoluminescence dating, it goes even up to 30,000, 35,000 years ago. These cultural advancements, these cultural periods, they are all followed by Neolithic. We will see more about Neolithic in the later part. This map shows the distribution of the Mesolithic sites in India. You can observe the kind of stone tools they were making. They are very small in sizes. They belong to different shapes, different forms. They are parallel-sided blades also are found. Points are there, scrapers are there, lunates are there, trapezes are there, end scraper, side scraper. So there are various kind of assemblages depending upon the usage in which they were put into. And also at some places, as I told you earlier, the pottery were being produced with cord impressions. They were not making wheel-made pottery. There's a very crude-made pottery. Clay was obtained and it was shaped, putting it over a basket or a mat. So that's how the impressions were observed on the pottery. So this is how they were hafting the stone tools. They were very small stone tools, and they were hafted on wooden or antler receptacles, so that different forms can be produced. Even sickle can be manufactured with a kind of a large C-shaped wooden hafting. So these kind of tools were produced, and even during the Neolithic period at Mehergarh, bitumen is one of the naturally occurring byproduct of petroleum. It was used for hafting stone tools to create a sickle. Even the smaller tools, they can be hafted as arrowheads. As we understand from the microlithic age or the Mesolithic age, they were making bows and arrows, and it is also a technological advancement. Before that, they could have used the hand axes as spearheads, but here they have a longer range now. They can hide behind some bushes or trees, and they can use the bows and arrows to hunt certain kind of slow moving animals. So this is another technological advancement in terms of human occupation in this part of India. Another major technological advancement took place after the Mesolithic age, that is known as the Neolithic age, or in the older parlances it is the old stone age. Lithic means stone and neo means new. It is the new stone age, and the Paleolithic means the old stone age, Neolithic means the new stone age. So it marks very remarkable changes. The humans started to settle down. They were not moving from place to place, because during the preceding period, as we observed, they were settling near the coastal areas and near the alluvial plains. They were observing the wild plants which is growing along the river banks, along the lakes and other water bodies, and they are also observing during seasonal months. They can harvest these wild plants, and they can also obtain grains and water products from that. So continuous observation of this pattern emerged into the domestication. They slowly started to exploit these wild plants, and that's how the emergence of wheat and barley in the archaeological record. It is also the emergence of the polished stone tools. Initially during the lower Paleolithic period, and the stone tools are very rough in form, they cannot be used for cutting the trees or clearing the woods. Now they were understood a different technology. They were polishing the stones, they were grinding it so smooth and creating axes and various kind of cells, so that now it can be used for the cutting the trees, clearing the trees. So they can clear a certain area so that they can be used for agricultural purposes. So they are domesticating plants and they are also domesticating animals. This is a remarkable stage, and it is very good reflected in the site of Mehergarh, where we find a pre-ceramic, that is before the advent of ceramics, a Neolithic age in which they were only exploiting the wild animals, but later around 1000 years after pre-ceramic Neolithic, they were shifting into a ceramic stage of Neolithic in which they are domesticating animals. They are shifting from the wild animals to the domestication of the animals, so that they can have a food supply all through the year. They cannot depend anymore on the wild animals, and they can shift from these wild animals to the domestication sort of thing. So this is a remarkable stage, and this also led them to settle down in smaller villages. That's how gradually several complexities grew, and the settlements also grew in size, and ultimately they became a permanent settlements. In India, the Neolithic age again ranges through a wide chronology. At some places it is very early, like in the Balochistan area and the lower reaches of the Balochistan, it is around 7000 BCE, and in southern India it goes up to even 1000 BCE. So this is the kind of wide range of chronology we find for the Neolithic period in India. So this map shows the distribution of the Neolithic sites in India and the kind of stone tool typology. They belong to various kind of tools, and it clearly shows how they are polishing the tools, and they were also using it for various kind of purposes, like clearing the wood and cutting the wood purposes, and also the emergence of ceramics during this period. Ceramics forms a very important component of the Neolithic age, as I told you earlier. So there are various kind of ceramics, depend upon the region to region, the shapes and forms they differ, the color also differ, the technology also differ. This shows a good idea of how the Neolithic tools look like, and how they were also hafted on wooden handles, so that they can be put into various purposes like cutting or splitting or chopping. Various kind of uses can be obtained from these kind of stone tools, and they are highly polished. The surface is highly polished, so that they cannot stick in between the wooden trunks when they are used into cutting. This is followed by another technological stage, that is the Chalcolithic, the emergence of metal, and also they were continuously using the stone tools. And during this period, it is a village-based economy. It is agriculture and pastoralism. All the animal husbandry is also playing the thing, and domestication is also playing the thing. And slowly they were getting a surplus in food production. They were using stone tools, copper tools, and in certain places they were also using bronze tool. Extensive use of pottery is seen during this period, and various kind of decorative motifs they are also created, and several craft activities, craft technologies also developed, like they were making beads and bangles, they're using copper tools, metallurgy is also there. So all these kind of technologies emerge, and in the Indian subcontinent it is dated roughly from 5500 to 1000 BCE. This map shows the distribution of the Chalcolithic cultures in India, and one can see the typologies of stone tools as well as the copper and bronze tools, and the various kind of supplementary tools, like even fish hooks made from metals, which can be used for fishing, and even hunting. The spirits can be used for hunting, hafted in a wooden shafts. Among the Chalcolithic cultures, we emerge into a stage known as the Protohistoric stage. Protohistoric stage is another technological development and another important phase in the human history in India. During this stage, even though the writing system is available, it is not yet deciphered. For example, the Harappan civilization, writing is available, it is widely used on the seals and sealings, and also some on the pottery, but it is not deciphered. So we don't know what it is written. So it is also the intermediary stage, or the transformation stage between the prehistoric culture to the historical period. Protohistoric period, it is also marked by the urban system. People who are living in towns and cities, and they were building fortifications all around, and it is a clearly urban system. The best example is Harappan civilization. They were using stone, copper, bronze tools, and pyrotechnology, the control of fire, to create various kind of artifacts like faience artifacts, stoneware bangles, and all kind of artifacts. And it also marks the Bronze Age in India, because they were alloying copper with different metals to create a bronze. And also some part of the Iron Age, like the Megalithic period, it can be put into the Protohistoric period, as well as the painted graver culture of North India. The overall chronology of the Protohistoric period is from around 3300 BCE to around 800 BCE. This shows the distribution of the Harappan settlement in South Asia. It extends for nearly 1 million square kilometers, and some of the representative pottery, bronze and copper tools, bangles, beads, seals depicted here. It gives a very good understanding of the urban system that was prevailing during the prehistoric period. This is followed by the Iron Age in India. Iron Age in India is marked by painted graver cultures in North India, and in South India we have the large megalithic tombs. Megalithic means large stone. So they are basically large tombs or cenotaphs. They have been constructed using large boulders and other kind of stones. So it is known as megalithic. And megalithic, it is also borrowed from the European context, because similar type of tombs are available in Europe. So looking into the typology, you can look into the distribution of the type of megalithic sites in peninsular India. Largely they are restricted to peninsular India up to the Deccan region, and a wide variety. They are slabs, simple slabs, like place like a cenotaph. They are known as schist. In Kerala, a typical variety known as kudaikal or toppikal is available. A hood stone is also available. So the various type, schist burials, can burials, toppikals, kudaikals, menhirs, and even sarcophagus. The human body, it was placed in a huge terracotta receptacle, and it was sealed with a lid also. So all these kind of burials we find during the Iron Age in South India. It also saw the emergence of iron during the middle part of the 2nd millennium BCE, and the megalithic culture, it's one of the important culture of South India, which also saw the transformation of the local human cultures from a prehistoric age to entering into the later kingdoms and other advanced urban system. So under this module we have journeyed through the various stages of the human evolution in Indian subcontinent. We have seen the prehistoric stage, where they were using some rudimentary stone tools. They were hunter-gatherers. They were traveling from place to place. Later the technologies evolved. They were making smaller tools. During the Mesolithic period, they were using very small tools, hafting in wooden shafts, so that they can use various kind of knives or sickles and other type of tools. And slowly later they found the use of metals. They were able to produce various kind of metals, and ultimately ending into the Iron Age of India, which marks a remarkable stage in the human evolution in India. For more information, you can refer into the other modules of the EPG Pathshala, and you can also refer into other courses which can also be correlatable with this aspect.